Let's start. So we are the four musketeers. First slide. Okay, the first slide is the same one. We share one. We share one. This is the first one. This is the first slide. So just to tease you a bit, and then we name the musketeers, right? They're, the fourth musketeer is remote. So let me switch. Oh, where is the fourth musketeer?
You have blurred background, Nuri. Can you maybe turn it off to your yeah, in Teams? If you can find the switch.
I don't understand exactly what you're saying.
Okay. No, okay. Go continue. Sorry, I'll look it up.
Other one. The other one. Well, we'll get lost. Okay, close this. Restart. Okay. No, the point is, I want to have it big enough. And Control F, Y. It's not working. Agile, yes. And okay, so the talk is Smalltalk, of course, but for the web and maybe beyond. So Smalltalk for the web. Who are new to Smalltalk here? Benoit is new, definitely. There are a few ones. So it's time to run, right? Or maybe it's too late, right? So we all know Smalltalk is a great language. It has great libraries, well designed. It has plenty of tools, advanced IDE, and a vibrant community. So we love Smalltalk, right? And for good reasons. And we want to use it all the time. So throughout the software lifecycle and everywhere for every application on our platforms. And specifically, the web. This is the topic of our presentation today. So, I guess some of you were involved in a web project. Raise a hand. Okay. Good. So, we know web technologies, meaning that we have on the client side web browsers that run some CSS, JavaScript, HTML, and they are talking to the server through HTTPS WebSockets. They talk through a REST API, GraphQL API, and the server will eventually have some database in behind. And the goal, if we want to do Smalltalk all the time, we need to have Smalltalk everywhere at all these places. So I started looking at what's the presence of Smalltalk in the open source in one open source platform, which is GitHub. Looked by language. There is a filter for language, and found 13.4K repositories. So, by the way, it's your responsibility as a developer to add a tag that you are using the Smalltalk language. So don't forget to put it and advertise for the language. Nevertheless, I continued further and say, okay, how many repositories are dedicated to web, or they have the web somewhere in their description, and only 1.65%. Not that much. And let's look outside the community, outside the balloon. What's happening in other languages? And if you see, okay, what's going on with CSS, what's going on with HTML, what's going on with JavaScript, what's about the web, the keyword web alone, and we get 9.1 million repositories. So Smalltalk, the web part of Smalltalk repositories is teeny tiny. So what can we do about it? It's mission impossible to compete on all this level. Is it? Because mission impossible, there is always a possibility, right? We always find a way. And if you, to quote Picasso, say, good artists copy, great artists steal. Let's rephrase it. Good developers copy, re-implement. Great developers steal. So, better reuse than re-implement. It applies when you are making your own software. Better not repeat yourself. You know the rule. So you don't code the same feature twice in two different classes. But applies to libraries from Smalltalk. You look first what's existing and reuse them. But why restrict ourselves to Smalltalk? Let's look beyond. Let's leverage what exists in there, the 9.1 million repositories that are available outside. So this is our idea of all the former Musketeers. And I guess now we will go into Smalltalk and web technologies and discuss this. And I want to see, among the people who raised their hands earlier about web technology, are you using Smalltalk or it's without Smalltalk? Who are using Smalltalk for the web? Good, good. Yes, so now the question is how to reuse, how to leverage the existing, so all the repositories, the project, the ecosystem of JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. So we, throughout our separate path, we made 4 different approaches to bridge Smalltalk to the web. So there is by Musketeer Eric. There is Pharaoh.js by Musketeer Dave and me. There is Small.js by Musketeer Richard. And WebST, it's another project of mine. So we'll go through all these 4 projects, discuss them, see the commonality, and try to extract, to step back and learn some lessons, try to extract some lessons. So, Code Paradise.
Thank you, Nuri. Yeah, so Code Paradise, and I'm a bit of a weird hat musketeer. It's a bit different than the other approaches in that it uses as a way of making JavaScript available isn't actually transpiling Smalltalk into JavaScript, but I'm running a tiny Smalltalk image thanks to Vanessa with Squeak.js virtual machine. We can run Smalltalk images on a JavaScript, and it's running a tiny Smalltalk image inside the browser. And with tiny, I mean the base image is like 220 kilobytes. And once you add views, so screens, part of your web application, it can become something like 3, 4, or 500 kilobytes. That's really tiny. If you put an image on your website, the chances are it's going to be 500 kilobytes. So it keeps it really small. And with a Smalltalk image running in the browser and a Smalltalk image running as your Pharaoh development environment, it allows any change you make in your Pharaoh IDE to be sent to the tiny image immediately through a WebSocket. So this tiny image is constantly being updated by your code changes. So it's live programming your web application because of this mechanism that's available there. And the interesting thing by running a tiny Smalltalk image inside your browser is you get all the Smalltalk goodies. You have your context, you have your process, you can do non-local returns. All the things you're familiar with are there and you use them like you're used to using them. So Code Paradise is if you want to develop something for the web, but you want to do it in Smalltalk and use the things you're very familiar with and sort of keep it in that environment. Starting up an application is not more than either subclassing one of the web application or the node application, and soon the mobile application. Coming Friday, I have a little demo there, and start up your browser to show the result and start adding features to it. 2 warnings. First of all, it's as addictive as the whole Smalltalk is, so well, probably running away, as Nuri said, is already too late. It started off, Code Paradise started off as a means to have a very thin layer of a view inside your browser. So there was a little logic inside the browser. Now, currently, with, for example, the mobile applications, more code is coming into the browser, and that means that more debugging is needed inside the browser. And those features are in need of a little love. So, but beware if you start building applications for mobile, debugging might be a little more challenging. There's some applications, web applications, mobile applications you can build. You can create node-based applications, command line applications, as long as you run it on a JavaScript engine. There's a tight coupling for DOM manipulation, web components, event handling, present in Code Paradise. That's where its strong point is. Other JavaScript classes, libraries can be wrapped. You just do a kind of perform on these proxy classes to perform the JavaScript method, the JavaScript function. It supports promises. So a lot of frameworks have promises nowadays, and those are supported. And you don't see the distinction between synchronous and asynchronous. There's no special things to handle there. And there are a number of frameworks available. Shoelace for building web applications. Ionic framework if you're more into the mobile applications, which also runs on regular web as a regular web application. Chart.js as a graphical for making graphics. All kinds of browser APIs are partially implemented because I implement the parts I need for my projects. If you have other needs and would like to use it, it's either easy to add or otherwise let me know. On Node.js there's some more server-side APIs available for image processing, mailing, and for example the database SQLite. And again on the mobile you have the Ionic framework to create appealing, native-looking web applications, which in the end you can nativize. You can make actual web applications you can put in an app store or the Google Play Store using a capacitor. Ionic has a capacitor which is very similar to Cordova. Maybe some have used or know that one. And I think that's my part. So I'm handing over to Dave.
Thank you. So, Pharo.js is a somewhat different development model. Nori and I have been developing over the last while. So we've given lots of talks here, so I will abbreviate this somewhat. But the basic idea is that you develop your code in Pharo, write your test suites in Pharo, and you can test in development mode. You can run code on the browser or Node.js, and you can write unit tests that test to verify, for example, that you get exactly the same output on the browser, on the JavaScript side, as you do in Pharo. And so you can write all your business logic and so on. You can, our interactive development model is a little bit still a work in progress, but you can certainly develop everything on the Pharo side, verify everything, and then you export it to the JavaScript side. So 100% Pharo while you're in development, and then you essentially turn it loose. Oops, wrong mouse. So we write tests, pass the tests, and then export to JavaScript. So it's very easy, and there's also an interactive playground you can open up where you can enter code that runs on the browser side, and so on. We have a variety of success stories, and these are all purely written in Smalltalk. There is, I don't think any JavaScript added into any of these. PLC 3000 and the COVID tracker both actually interact with JavaScript libraries. So they're existing JavaScript libraries that we pulled from the outside world, and very smooth interaction. The more success stories, including some phone apps that have been developed with Cordova, so you can develop all your stuff in Pharo and then hand it off to Cordova to generate a native executable, well, native in the sense it's running JavaScript, but it fully runs like an ordinary app that you could just download from an app store. And this is the 10th anniversary of Pharo.js. Nori and I got together on this. Nori had started it in 2015, and I joined with him working on it, and then we released the really big major version in 2016. So it's both of us have used it as you've seen, and there are a few people, other third parties that have used it and with some success. And now it's time to turn it over to Richard.
Okay, so can I share my screen? Yeah, oh yeah, all right. Well, good morning, everybody. I'm sorry that I couldn't be there live due to other obligations, but I'm very grateful to be able to present. Yeah, this little segment is about Small.js, and I have subtitled it Smalltalk within the web. It's a little more tighter integration with the web JavaScript framework, which I'll get to in a minute. And my name is Richard. So what is Small.js? It's a transpiler from Smalltalk to efficient, lightweight JavaScript. And yeah, it can run in the browser and in the Node.js. And yeah, maybe also to say that the classes it generates are quite readable in JavaScript. So it's not, yeah, it's you can interpret it and also debug it on the low level if you want to. That Small.js has got full Smalltalk 80 language support and a good library that implements most things you need in the browser and also in Node. For example, HTML, CSS, and Express.js on the Node side to make an application server. And yeah, here's the, well, kind of a big difference, I mean, with the previous solutions. It's chosen to be file-based development from the Visual Studio Code IDE. That is, well, nice to have everything in one place. And you got syntax coloring and also step debugging enabled by Visual Studio Code. It is a bit different from developing from like the Pharo image that the previous solutions said. So you must like it or not. Small.js has got built-in GUI testing, unit testing framework, and also a GUI testing framework. Also in the browser is on the buttons, and then you see if your application is still working. Oh yeah, and you can do that with the example apps. There are kind of like 5 or 6 example apps, front end, back end, full stack. And oh yeah, even one example app with a little Pharo integration. So that if you want to do Pharo in the backend and Small.js in the front end, there's an example app for that. And there's also a playground in which you can run arbitrary expressions to see what the result is. And it runs also on the website with the small-js.org. Or you can run it locally as part of the development environment, which is of course fully available on GitHub. So target audience, who would use Small.js? Well, if you want to develop complex modern web applications in Smalltalk, and of course we're here, we kind of would want to use Smalltalk for that. An advantage is that it uses the same language for the front end and the back end. So yeah, you can use exactly the same language. There's no difference in language nor in libraries. You use really the same. And yeah, especially if you're coming from the JavaScript TypeScript side, you can have a nicer and cleaner environment than the JS or TS language, which is of course Smalltalk. Yeah, Smalltalk had seamless integrations with a lot of JS frameworks, mostly the JavaScript libraries are one-line interfaces to Smalltalk interfaces, so you have full control, and maybe a little different from, let's say, Code Paradise. It tries to encapsulate all the JavaScript libraries with these one-line little code, so you can call Smalltalk code all the way instead of perform, which is, by the way, it is also supported, but you don't have to. And you use the friendly and powerful file-based Visual Studio Code IDE. I must say also personally I quite like it, but as said, it's a bit of a diversion from the Faro IDE if you're very used to that. And yeah, you have source level step debugging in all environments where needed. It's really integrated into the running browser and Node, which might be a little different feel than the other solutions. Oh yeah, but enough bullet points now, how to use it. So this is a slide of the system in action, also showing off the debugger. Well, this, of course, the outside window is Visual Studio Code. You probably recognize it with a file tree here on the left. And this actually shows the shop project. The shop project is a client and a server. And it is actually now showing the client side of it in the debugger, but you can show both on different screens. Oh yeah, here you see the GUI tests, the test folder, which has a special meaning. The tests here are derived from a special test class, so that if you are running your regression test, new test methods and new test classes are automatically picked up from this this folder. I hope if you can see my cursor. Let me see. Oh yeah. You have now the login app. It is the Smalltalk extension class, which is the class that is open. So this is the one ST file, which will be transpiled to one JavaScript file. Yeah, also using ECMAScript 6 type imports. And in this JavaScript file, you can also import other JavaScript libraries if you want to expand on that functionality. Yeah. So yeah, you're now at the debugger. That is also like, I think, a very cool feature. You see the breakpoint here. It's broken on login API, and you can really inspect the variable like person. And you see here, yeah, it's a kind of a JavaScript representation of the object, but it's quite readable that here what the person contains here. And the advantage of doing it this way is that you can click through to JavaScript details, because in the end, if you're running in the web or in Node.js, you always run JavaScript. On the bottom right, oh yeah, here you see the compilation step that went before starting this application. So it successfully compiled 170 classes and 2,000 plus methods. This takes about 1 second. So it's not really a live environment like working directly from a Smalltalk image, but starting an application takes really 1 or 2 seconds. So it's not a bother. And oh yeah, going to the bottom left here, it is this client folder here that shows all the files for the shop client project. Everything in one place, kind of nice. And here you see a shared folder. I cannot unclick it now because this is just a screenshot, but I have it live on my computer. There are here classes shared between the client and the server part, which is very nice that you have to, for example, if you implement a person, you don't have to do it twice. In the second folder, Smalltalk, this actually contains the total Smalltalk image with all the base classes of Smalltalk that you would need, and yeah, in this case for the browser added too. And yeah, and on the server side, you use Express.js. Yeah, I think that is enough about this image. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. And on the right side, you see the actual application running in your browser, which is live, broken in the debugger at this point, the login screen of the application app. And it uses session management also with the Express.js framework. This is a very common framework for JavaScript. Okay, then I think last slide. Yeah, a bit of a summary. When would you want to use Small.js? If you want to make complex, rich, interactive websites, which new JavaScript libraries are added frequently because that is very easy to do. Also, if you have a project you have already started in JavaScript or TypeScript and you want to gradually incorporate Smalltalk, that is very easy to do. And yeah, you can leverage also your JavaScript knowledge, because for these libraries, I tend to use the JavaScript standard and not the Smalltalk standard. So it edges a bit away to JavaScript instead of to Smalltalk. Well, as said, you can use the Visual Studio Code IDE, which, well, I quite like. But again, it's different from the integrated Faro environment. Oh yeah, being file-based also gives the advantage of using just standard source code controls tools, anything you want. You can use the built-in one with Visual Studio Code. And seeing differences with what you did is easy. Also, deployment is easy. You compile to JavaScript files, so everything you do when deploying a JavaScript browser or node project, you also do for this. The deployments are also very minimal, and the base class is like 180 kilobytes, and it is not even stripped, not even minimized. It is full verbose JavaScript. And you don't have to do any image stripping that you will need to do when you're working from a full Smalltalk image. And oh yeah, little new feature, you can recently create AI apps with it. I added 5 AI common providers and also Olama, the open source one that you can run models yourself. It is just like a fun library project, which I did, which also has an example. So, and this is my part of the presentation. Give it back to Nuri.
Thank you, Richard. So that was the presentation of Squeak.js.
I'm not hearing you anymore, Nuri.
Oh, yes.
Your mic is muted.
Yes,
Nuri. Yeah.
I muted during your presentation. Okay, now back to the presentation, and we need to skip to WebST. So the fourth project that joins the team is WebST. It's about web components for Smalltalk. And I'm supposed to make progress here. Yes. So the idea of web components is to create custom reusable HTML tags. So basically, you have parts of a web client that are where do you have the view, the interaction, the interactivity, maybe some model, maybe it can be capable of talking to a server, and you put it in a custom tag. So when you need to build an HTML page, you basically just write this custom tag. So what's behind, you have to build a web component, you need to embed some HTML, you need to embed some CSS, and you need to have JavaScript too. And one of the properties of this standard is that it ensures encapsulations. So you can have multiple components using different libraries, different CSS, and they want with the possibly colliding names, and they won't mess up with each other. Same, they can have different classes with the same names, and they are still hidden inside. And the goal is that when you have a web component, or you have multiple web components, you pick the ones that you need, you assemble them, and you build the web app. You build the UI that runs on any browser, since it's a W3C standard. So a simple example is a counter. So I already did the work, created a class, or actually several classes, one for the view, one for the model, and so on, and it can be in a hierarchy. And then at some point I say, okay, This is my component, and the tag will be ws-counter. So whenever I need to integrate my source code that is in JavaScript, actually, to the document, and whenever there is ws counter in the document, I see this component. So I can have many of them in my document. So WebST allows to build these components, these CSS, JavaScript, HTML, all in Smalltalk. And then, so we code in Smalltalk, and then you generate the components that is HTML, CSS, JavaScript. From the developer perspective, you only see Smalltalk. You need to know, of course, about the concept. If you are using the Navigator DOM tree, you need to know about it. But this is all you see. You see Smalltalk. You are working in the Smalltalk IDE, and you do your routine work. You use the tests. You run the tests. And they pass. And when you are happy, you export, and you got your web component. Then you can put it in a library, reuse it yourself to build an app, or hand it to other developers, non-Smalltalkers, by the way, that are building their own web app. They can use the components that were built in Smalltalk. So this the idea. So here in this slide, I'm showing the normal or my normal process, which is I'm building my components. I reuse existing third-party libraries with other web components. So I'm leveraging the existing ecosystem, and from there, I'm building a standalone client, a web client. So WebST is built on top of Pharo.js and the static HTML generation of Seaside, and so we adopt the same process as Pharo.js. So development is done in Pharo 100%. You write the test. So if we adopt the TDD approach, we start with writing the test, then we write the code to make the test green and pass them. And meanwhile, we'll be running the test debugging. So we will have the Smalltalk image, the Pharo image running on one side, and the web browser on the other side. And the Pharo image will be controlling the web browser, creating objects, loading code there, inspecting objects, JavaScript objects, so we can interact with them from the Smalltalk side. And once we are happy, we export the web components. So we have a standalone component, which is HTML, JavaScript, CSS, and we don't need, on production, we don't need the image, at least not for the client side, for when we develop web components like this. Okay, I already covered everything. So it's built on Pharo.js and Seaside. So thank you, Seaside supporters. Thank you, Seaside. Thank you, Johan and Philip, for maintaining Seaside. So now, once we have the overview of the picture for the last part of this talk, we will step back, analyze what's the difference between these approaches and what we can learn from them. So Code Paradise runs tiny Pharo images on JavaScript. So in a nutshell, I'm summarizing, right? So sorry. So Pharo.js we develop in Pharo and run on JavaScript. So we cut the code. Smalltalk.js is a new Smalltalk flavor that's allowed to develop application on Node.js or Fail.based from Web Studio. So it's disconnect from the image and work with the Web Studio, so it gets closer to other people that are used to Visual Studio Code. And WebST, we develop in Pharo again, and run web components. We get web components and web clients. So to graphically show have a better view of what of the systems and compare them, we took two different criteria. One are the files and entities involved. So we can be using JS, HTML, CSS, obviously, because it's the web. And then we are using Smalltalk. But then there is the virtual machine, the image, and the source code. And then the targets, they can be clients, web clients, servers, desktops. So if we look at Code Paradise, we have this tiny image that is embedded everywhere. You see the small balloon represents the image, and with the process, my understanding of the process that you develop your app in an image, and then it generates the tiny image that will go into the client, and you have your server, and they talk to each other. And the virtual machine, since we are running JavaScript, is Squeak.js. And then the same approach can be done on web browser or on mobile apps if you are using Cordova or alike or such platforms. With Pharo.js, the image stays outside. So it's there during development. So we're using Pharo and the Pharo virtual machine. And then once we are done developing, we generate JavaScript on the client, on the server, possibly for the mobile app. And then we are done. So during development, we have the image, and then afterwards, we cut the code. Small.js uses the source code, and it's running. So we have the Smalltalk source code and the way to connect it to JavaScript. And then from there, you export JavaScript, or you end up with a code that runs on JavaScript wherever you have JavaScript. And this is part of the overall idea of this talk. That's the goal is to ensure portability, and Small.js allows covering this. And Richard is doing lots of efforts for supporting various platforms, including for desktop application. In theory, it applies to the others, but in practice, we are not supporting it. But Richard is doing the effort, hence this. And WebST, we develop in the image, we test in the image, and then we export HTML, JavaScript, CSS. So at runtime, we are more on the client side, and it's we cut the code with the image. So now, what do we do from here? We start discussing, the four of us, with Richard, Eric, and Dave, and say, okay, we love Smalltalk. This is the intro of the talk. We love Smalltalk. We want to do Smalltalk all the time, everywhere. Good. So, oh, you are doing this. It's interesting. Oh, I'm doing something that might be interesting. Maybe we can share some stuff. Let's discuss. What are the differences? What are the target audience? How should we use? What is the process? And so on and so on. So we had plenty of questions. And then say, okay, we have too much stuff in common. Let's unite. Let's share efforts, because like we have possibly lots of interaction, and each time we discuss, we say, oh, okay, you have this too. We need this. Maybe you can help me with that, and so on. So we started this Smalltalk Web initiative with the goal is to unite the community and unite the work of the community to bridge with the web technology. We want to invite people, to encourage people to collaborate. So beyond the four projects we showed, beyond Code Paradise, Pharo.js, Small.js, and WebST, we want more people involved. So by construction, it's open to different Smalltalk dialects and variants. We have Small.js with the new Smalltalk flavor. We have Code Paradise running with the Squeak.js VM. We have Pharo for Pharo.js and WebST. So by construction, we are open, and we are a small community. We don't need to scatter. So let's keep this momentum and adopt, why not, a cross-dialect approach like Seaside. Seaside got it right with this grease layer. It required a lot of effort. It has a lot of constraints, but it allows interacting with Pharo, with VA, with other Smalltalk dialects. We have Seaside everywhere. So maybe we should think about this way. And of course, we want it open source, because we want it something sustainable in time. We want that the projects or the initiative for supporting the web from Smalltalk to be available to everyone for freelance developer businesses or hobby developers or academia. We want everyone to be able to reuse and benefit from what's available. By the way, I think we are all MIT, if I'm not wrong.
Yep.
Okay, so for the last part, I was introducing the concept. It's called the balloon factor. So anyone familiar with the track factor or the bus factor? So good. So I prefer the balloon. So I took the idea and adapted to the balloon. So the balloon is a developer, and the basket is your Smalltalk project. So project is alive, developer is committing, making releases, promoting the project, and the project lives. But we have one developer, so the balloon factor is 1. What happens in case the developer, for some reason, cannot support the project anymore? We have no developer, the balloon factors goes 0, and the project dies. Maybe someday someone maybe can revive it if the license allows for it. Not very good. Now consider this project. We have 5 developers. Balloon factor is 5. So 5 balloons holding the project, and they are committing, are maintaining, and doing all the usual work. If one developer, for some reason, needs to go, the project stays alive and continues to prosper. And maybe other developers will join later because we see there is momentum and things are making progress, and all the remaining developers continue to advertise for the project. So it's important to have a lot of balloons. So we need projects with high balloon factors, but we are a small community. What can we do about it? So here are some ideas to discuss or to get the discussion going. So as a Smalltalk initiative, we want to unite around few but critical projects. The idea is leverage other technologies, make Smalltalk libraries available to other technologies, and of course, open source and cross dialect. We don't need to. We need to gather the same way as Seaside succeeded to do with Greece. So to finish, everyone is familiar with the byte issue about Smalltalk, but who knows why the hot air balloon was a symbol of Smalltalk? Raise of hand. Do you know? Okay, only Vanessa. Come on. 2 people? Okay, good. So previous to that issue, there was an issue about Pascal programming language. And Pascal programming language is the big triangle at the top, showing like, okay, Pascal makes things smooth. You see the water are calm and people are sailing in order, and it's nice and organized. While the rest, the water are unstable and there are waves, and it's not very, very nice. So the issue was advertising for Pascal. And the guy or the artist knew about Smalltalk, although wrote it in 2 words. And say, okay, this is the land of Smalltalk. This island there. It was the Xerox Park. And then when we released the issue, we released Smalltalk 80. So in the paper, which is, by the way, available, the 4 issue and other issues are available in the URL up there. It says that the Smalltalk system is taking flight into the mainstream. So it's quitting the small island, the isolated island, and joining the mainstream computer programming community. Hi, people, we are here. And we are here to lead, right? So, again, how to do it? We exist, we have a very powerful programming language. We have powerful IDE, a rich IDE, and we have a vibrant community, very smart people. You saw the awards yesterday. Very, very interesting. And believe me, you don't find such things in other community all the time, or not this concentration. This is what is important about our Smalltalk. So the idea is we have something powerful. Let's reuse the ecosystem available there and build software. So leverage the existing. So let's be strategic in our approach. And why not? Make libraries, build stuff, and make it available to the rest of the world. So here is my JS library reused. I think Norbert succeeded in this. Thank you, Norbert. So we talked to Norbert about Active Grid, so later. So build, when Smalltalk, build a library that is reusable to other technologies. So spreading beyond the web. It can be, of course, a JavaScript library. It can be a web component library. And any library that people can be useful to other people. Make it available. So people will start using it. And then they will dig and say, oh, OK, I need to add this feature and this feature. OK, this is the language. This is how to do it. This is Smalltalk. And you can build your software with your technology thanks to Smalltalk, because Smalltalk is the central. So, final slide. Join the Musketeers. Join the Smalltalk Web Musketeers with Richard remote. Hopefully next time he will be joining. So we are here till the end of the conference. Talk to us during the break. Thanks, Stefan, for creating, where is it? Stefan Egermont. Okay, yes, here. Thank you for creating the Discord for web. So on Faro Discord, there is now a channel called Web. It's everything about web. There is still Seaside, but for Faro.js, we agreed with Dave that we will be merging into this one. I guess Code Paradise and will be happy, and I think Richard will be joining there. So we can have this, at least newers to Faro. When they search for the web, they know where to start. And there we can say, OK, we can go there to this other channel and talk to that other people. So currently, the Smalltalk web page, it's called a GitHub page. We are listing the projects. We started comparing. It's work in progress, but it will be always a work in progress. But you are welcome to join if you want to projects listed there. If you want to share help, you're welcome. Thank you.
Okay. Hey guys, thanks for the talk, and thanks for all the hard work. It's really nice to see Smalltalk being able to run in a JavaScript environment, so thanks for that. I've got 2 questions. Maybe the first one is a technical one. I heard some things about what you're running on the server and what you're running on the client, which is obviously then the JavaScript or transpiled or just Squeak.js. But what is the architecture between client and server typically look like in your cases? Is this an API you develop? For example, if you have a database running on your server, for example, which your app is using, will you be creating an API, or is there another means? Can I do some regular method calls which are then converted into requests in those cases? So that's first part, and I'll first let you answer that.
Yeah, for Code Paradise, like during development, and if you're building a web application which keeps a connection with the Faro IDE or the Faro server, there's announcements going from the browser back to the Faro IDE. So that's the means of communicating at least some information, and the Faro IDE is pushing either new bytecode to be installed in the tiny image, or sort of render commands to make the visual display. And from the browser or from any environment, like also a Node application, it can use any of the default JavaScript APIs. So for example, the mobile apps I'm building currently, they use REST API, which I built in Code Paradise. So I have a Node application which creates a REST API, and from my client side, I'm calling the REST API in a regular way using the fetch method from.
Okay, so
the
there
browser.
are two separate applications: a server application and a client application, and you communicate using a REST architecture.
In the mobile
okay.
application, yes, yeah.
That's good. Thank you.
From the Pharo.js perspective, we have both. Like we have currently, it's in development, we can send messages from Pharo to JavaScript or the other way around, but it's not reliable enough. We didn't put enough work on it to put it in production. So in production, if we don't have the Smalltalk image, we rely on Express.js. So we can have an Express.js server with a regular API or a WebSocket. This is what we are using too. Maybe Richard, you want to add something about Small.js?
Yeah. For Small.js, there is no development type of connection between the client and the server. You really develop independently the client and the server using within Node.js or within the browser. There's no need for a connection. And for making a client-server application, you just use the standard API calls that you design yourself. For example, the web shop example is a good example of that. And it also gives the advantage that you can choose if you want to use Smalltalk on the client or the server side. You can say, okay, I want to use Small.js on the client side, but Pharo on the server side, that's just fine. Or you can say, I want to use Small.js on the server side, but I want to use a regular JavaScript environment on the client side. That's certainly possible because it only communicates using standard API.
So I have an addition here regarding Pharo.js, an experiment we did with Dave. It was his idea to have a REPL server, which we have on the client side text area where you can type like workspace, you can type your Smalltalk code, and then send it to the server evaluate it and send back the result. So it's like kind of do it remotely. So this is but on the client side we have JavaScript and we only display the result. That's kind of interesting or different kind of application.
Okay, yeah, thank you. And then I'll just, my second thing is maybe not really a question, but I'll let you react in the sense that I'm taking a look, as you say, good developers, they copy, great developers steal. I also take a look at similar communities like ours, which are small, a little bit bigger than the Smalltalk community, but still in the same way. This is the Ruby community. And when I take a look at the web development for Ruby, there is one big framework which originated server-side, and all the other things, they get to be embedded in there. So they keep one big web initiative. So I would say we also have that on the Smalltalk side. We have a server-side rendered thing. And this would benefit by integrating all the client-side, building client-side components which are executing on the client, being embedded in a larger framework. I think we can, in the light of your talk, the first and the last slides, I think this needs to be one unified world. So when I take a look at Ruby on Rails, that's what they're doing, and I think they are more successful at that than building all separate islands.
Yes, I like it. Just for the record, you remember that the discussion about components, we started it in a Pharo sprint. And when you have time, we can continue this work. No, yeah, right. Yeah, this is an invite. This is an invite to you. I hope now you have a bit more time. at least one of my commercial projects is a simulator of factory plans, and so we have multiple things running, and they are timed and so on, and there are synchronization. And what I did, I implemented a layer on top of a friendlier layer on top of the processes or Smalltalk processes, so I can say start a process that ticks or do some task every X milliseconds. So we have like this, like Taskit, but a lightweight of it. And it relies on processes on Smalltalk, and it has its own JS implementation. So, and this is run on production for my customers.
I'd like to add something. Like Code Paradise is running a Smalltalk image, so I have all the goodiness that Smalltalk has. So I run different process like you normally run, and again, thanks to Vanessa's Script.js, that just you give the priority if you want to processes, or you can also it combines well with like the timeouts you can use in JavaScript as well, for example. So it actually, I think, works. You can use both the good aspects of both environments.
Yeah, I would maybe like to add that in Small.js a little different. I just really natively implemented on the web browser side that we call the correct name, the worker threads. So from one Small.js program, you can actually call worker threads, which use actual parallelism on multiple CPUs and multiple cores on the if you want. And on the server side, there's called it's called something else, thread in Node.js. I forget the name at this moment. But it's also a native implementation of threads, which actually uses multiple cores and multiple CPUs, and you can call that directly from one Small.js server program.
My question was actually, and now I'm remembering to talk to this thing here, my question was actually that one of the things that has been difficulty in Smalltalk has been you have a parallelism in the language, but you are now running it on computers that has 5 to 50 different things on the actual machine, and the browser of JS actually uses it, not all the time, but for some things. And my question was, are you using that facility for some things?
Honestly, the one of the things that's in my plan is to rely on JavaScript workers and to rebuild on it, but it's still on the to-do, and it's not high priority because already can do something already interesting and working.
Yes. Yeah, I would also say my answer is the same, that you use just worker threads, and yeah, that uses parallelism in your browser if you would like to, and on the Node side is about the same.
Yes. So first question I have is, which of your approaches is the best? No, okay, joke aside. You don't want to answer that one. No. One thing that it would be nice to me, maybe we can discuss it later, but I would like to know what are the differences in your approaches with regards to interoperability with JavaScript libraries or frameworks. Like, I'm thinking, okay, what can I take from what you learned to use it for interoperability in C, or I don't know, FFI, or when we are doing this transpilation to C, you see. So what can I learn from you?
This is a difficult question. So first, we think that each project has its own merits, and this is why we get together. So I think we need to collaborate, and we need to learn from what each one is doing. I think the parallel with C is difficult because we are using actually it's not an accident that we start connecting with JavaScript because it's a dynamically typed language and it's an object oriented. So the connection is for a lot of things are straightforward, which you don't have in C. You don't and you don't have object and you don't have and you do have types. So it's becoming complicated. Honestly, we are at the early stage. We didn't dig deep into the comparison, but we all connect to the DOM, and we are basically I think we more or less have the same limitations. If they are like the same limitation when it comes to connecting to JavaScript. I think we discussed it with Dave in our talk in IWC already about the transpiling Smalltalk to JavaScript, and. I think it was a comment from Gordana, which was like maybe we need to take a meta approach and then have this meta description of the target. So like now we are targeting JavaScript, but maybe we instead of having what we are doing, at least from when we come to transpile, is we start with Smalltalk. Process the abstract syntax tree. I'm talking mostly about Pharo.js, but I guess the others have similar approaches and rebuild the abstract syntax tree. We start from Smalltalk abstract tree, rebuild the target JavaScript abstract syntax tree, and generate. And maybe instead of being connected to the language, go one level up with a meta model of a family of languages. But still, I don't think it's obvious. For C, I don't know how it helps you.
Actually, my point is, do you, for example, take it like you want philosophically, do you want a seamless integration, like everything is message send, or you are kind of explicitly modeling the JavaScript libraries, or it's just API calls? I don't know. What are the different approaches when designing this interoperability?
I think all of the approaches.
No, sorry.
I think all three, because WebST is using Pharo.js's underlying model. I think all three approaches all interact fairly directly with the JavaScript libraries and so on and so forth. So they're kind of direct calls to them. With Code Paradise, there's a little bit of interface, but again, it's basically you can access the existing libraries and call them directly. I just wanted to mention in Cagliari, IWST, I don't remember what that year was, I talked about something I called Pharo Java, and I had done some work on transpiling to Java. And I had a PhD student who was supposed to be working on type inference, and he hasn't been making very much progress on his type inference work. So that is actually the holdup that I see, at least, for getting seamless transpilation to statically typed language. Oh, and Steph has something to say.
Yes. So, for me, just a remark: you should not forget the Willow people because they do all. You should not forget the Willow people because on top of Seaside, they build a client, all the client part. So this is quite good. And I think that we should stop now because the coffee break is out.